Welcome to Creating Your Genius.
Artlist.io.
Welcome back to Creating Genius. And today I want to talk a little bit about vitamin A, what it does in the body, some genes that are important for our ability to make it, and some of the dark side surrounding the supplementation of it. So vitamin A is absolutely essential for our health. We need it for eye health, we need it for skin health, and those are probably the two most famous uses of it. Especially the skin, I know for scars and sometimes for acne, people use retinol cream, which is vitamin A. Beyond that, we need it for immune function, growth, reproduction, and it also supports our heart and lungs. A lesser known role of vitamin A is its importance for helping us balance the metals that we have in our body, namely copper and iron. Iron especially is very important to balance because the accumulation of iron is one of the lesser known causes of aging and the diseases of aging. There's a lot of research behind that. I'm not going to dig into it right now, but vitamin A does play a role in how the body stores and uses iron. So vitamin A is made in our bodies by taking carotenoids, which are pigments that are found in fruits, vegetables, and some animal products. These carotenoids are the precursors, so we ingest the carotenoids, and using a set of enzymes, we break them down into the active form of vitamin A. One of the most famous examples of a food that's high in carotenoids is carrots, and the carotenoids are what give the carrots their orange color. It's important to note, though, that there are a very wide set of carotenoids, and not all of them can be used by our body to make vitamin A. Alpha and beta carotene are the two most common carotenoids that we use, but lycopene, which helps give tomatoes their red color, and astaxanthin, which gives salmon its orange color, are other examples of carotenoids that are found in nature, but our body cannot use those to create vitamin A. So it does matter which types of carotenoids we're ingesting, and all of them have specific health benefits, but alpha and beta carotene, their most common health benefit or most important health benefit is the fact that we use them to create vitamin A. Going back to how we use vitamin A in our body, I really want to focus on immune function here because I think that's one of the lesser known values of vitamin A. And to illustrate how important it is, I'm going to cite a paper called Understanding the Role of Vitamin A and Its Precursors in the Immune System. In this paper, they looked at children who contracted measles. And measles is a really good example because the symptoms of measles, or the condition of it, actually mimics a lot of what vitamin A deficiency shows up as. So the main hallmarks of measles is it suppresses the immune system and it damages epithelial cells. And these epithelial cells are the cells that make up the barriers between our body and the outside world. So that's going to be the skin, the intestinal tract, and the respiratory tract. Those are the most common places where you're going to find epithelial cells. So in the patients or the children that contracted measles, they were given high-dose vitamin A, up to 200,000 international units per day, and that is a massive dose. Usually the doses of vitamin A are going to range from 2,000 to 5,000 IUs. In the kids who were given the high doses, they were able to restore some immune function and decrease damage to the epithelial cells that was happening. And this is really important because vitamin A deficiency is not only found in measles. It can be found in sepsis, malaria, diarrhea, and there's a high prevalence of vitamin A deficiency in Crohn's disease. And we know there's a lot of effects to the intestinal lining, and that's going to be, likely in the form of damage to those epithelial cells. There's one more part of vitamin A's role in the immune system that I think really goes along with why deficiency leads to basically a breakdown of these barriers. And that is vitamin A is essential for the health of the mucosal layers in our body. So basically, wherever you have epithelial cells, you're going to have mucosa. So even on your skin, you don't know it, but there is a mucosal layer that sits on top of the epithelial cells. Because we see our skin, and it's probably hard to imagine what our mucosal layer on the skin looks like, it's probably easier to imagine the mucosa layer that's in the respiratory tract and the intestinal tract. The mucosa is this moist lining of a lot of organs and cavities in the body. And what's really interesting about the mucosa, it has a lot to do with the bacteria in our body and our microbiome, because a lot of the bacteria actually live in the mucosa. The moist and sticky nature of it is part of our first line of defense against foreign invaders in the body. And that's why when you get sick, you're going to produce more mucus, because you're going to basically thicken things up, especially in your nose and in your throat, where a lot of bacteria get in from the external environment, and you're going to make it harder for these things to enter the body. And a study called Bacterial Population and Innate Immunity-Related Genes in Rat Gastrointestinal Tract Are Altered by Vitamin A Deficient Diet gives a little insight into this. In this study, it was shown that rats who were on vitamin A deficient diets had increases in total bacteria, and it altered the intestinal microflora. And we know that the balance of the bacteria that we have in the gut is so important for our immune health. And, this is one of the reasons why the microbiome it's such a hot topic. And there's all these things. You have to balance your microbiome. You have to get rid of the bad bacteria. You have to feed the good bacteria. And it seems that vitamin A plays a really important role in the way that we regulate the amounts of the good and bad bacteria. Part of the reason why I think there's a correlation between vitamin A deficiency and Crohn's is you have dysregulation of the mucosa. And when the mucosa is dysregulated, the epithelial cells aren't protected in the same way that they would normally be. And so you have damage to the mucosa, and it's more likely that you're going to damage the epithelial cells. And that's going to damage the barrier of the intestinal tract and lead to, again, chronic inflammatory issues. The anti-inflammatory role that vitamin A plays in the body can actually be extended to how we break down unsaturated fatty acids. And the breakdown of these fatty acids, which are going to be omega-3s, which are found in things like fish oil and fish, and omega-6s, which are found in nuts, seeds, and the oils like vegetable oil or sesame oil. Sometimes when we break down these unsaturated fatty acids, they can cause inflammation in the body, and vitamin A plays a role in managing how we break those down. Moving a little bit away from inflammation and immune health, vitamin A is also very important for muscle growth. To illustrate this, I'm going to look at a study that followed cows who were given vitamin A. And this study was really interesting because the cows that were given vitamin A themselves weren't actually the ones that were studied. The offspring of the cows who received the vitamin A supplementation were the ones that were studied. And in those offspring, there was shown to be increased muscle growth and an increased expression of muscle-building genes. And this points to vitamin A being something that's transmitted from mother to offspring in the milk. And again, we are not cows, so I can't say that what is happening in this study is necessarily happening for humans, but we do share about 90% of our genome with cows. So it's more than likely that having sufficient levels of vitamin A would help us build muscle and activate similar sorts of muscle-promoting genes. Let's shift gears here a little bit. Clearly, vitamin A is very important, and it has some fantastic benefits in the body. And it's one of the core nutrients that I think everyone should be supplementing with, or at least making sure that you're getting enough of it through your diet. And this is where that dark side of vitamin A supplementation comes into play. I mentioned before how beta carotene is the most common precursor our body uses to make vitamin A. And to create the retinol, which is the active form of vitamin A, we have a gene called BCMO1 that takes the beta carotene and basically splits it in half and creates 2 molecules of retinol. It doesn't actually seem that beta carotene itself plays much of a role in the body, and the benefit comes from its ability to be turned into retinol. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. Variants in the BCMO1 gene can absolutely impact our ability to create retinol from beta carotene. Have you ever seen people who, after eating a lot of carrots or sweet potatoes, seem to actually turn a little bit orange? If you haven't, I would look it up because it's a very interesting condition. Not dangerous, but when that happens, it's a pretty clear sign that the beta carotene is not being converted into retinol very efficiently. And because these carotenoids, they're just pigments on their own, it's going to cause a change in pigment in the body. Just to make it perfectly clear, the people turning orange when they consume a lot of beta carotene is not dangerous in any way. But I think it gives some insight into some of the potential problems with vitamin A supplementation. The first problem, or not really problem, but the first factor is that BCMO1 variants are extremely common. Based on the software I use to analyze genes for my job, I can say with pretty good confidence that it's likely that more than 50% of the population has at least one heterozygous variant. There are 4 BCMO1 genes with research showing that they impact our body's ability to break down beta carotene, but there are more than 4 BCMO1 genes in total. The second problem, and this is sort of a confounding factor to that first problem, is that many supplement companies label beta carotene as vitamin A, and it's allowed by the FDA or whoever oversees this to say that beta carotene is vitamin A or the active form of vitamin A when it is actually not. So when you supplement with beta carotene, it depends on your body's ability to break it down into vitamin A. And these BCMO1 variants are very common, and most people haven't had their genes tested. So you could be taking a ton of beta carotene and not really breaking it down that efficiently into the retinol. I think about it like this. Cholesterol is a precursor to vitamin D, and this beta carotene being labeled as vitamin A is sort of similar to you taking a pill that says it's vitamin D on it, but it's actually just cholesterol, but you're allowed to label the cholesterol as vitamin D because eventually your body turns that cholesterol into vitamin D. I think that's a little bit misleading, especially considering that a lot of the health claims attributed to beta carotene are actually from retinol. So this is actually one of the ways that I kind of vet supplement companies. If someone, a client or a friend, asks me about a company that I don't know, I'm going to go take a look at their multivitamin. And if their vitamin A is labeled as beta carotene, or their beta carotene is what they're putting in the product as vitamin A, this gives me a hint that this supplement quality might not be the highest possible that I could get. And I think this is really important when thinking about vitamin A in terms of immune health, because people get sick and, sometimes you just need to boost the defenses. And so if you think you're taking vitamin A, but you're getting beta carotene and you've got BCMO1 variants that you don't know about because you haven't had your genes tested, you're getting much less immune benefit than you think. So again, if you want to supplement with vitamin A, I think it's very important to make sure you're getting the retinol, because we eat carrots, we eat sweet potatoes, we eat a lot of things or most people eat a lot of things that have beta carotene in it. You're getting enough beta carotene, but you might not be having enough retinol based on your genes. And again, so I'm going to look at any multivitamin being put in front of me, and one of the ways that I vet it is there vitamin A beta carotene, or is it retinol, or some form of retinoic acid? You look for that prefix ret. That's the most important thing. So with this information handy, you can be more intentional with the supplement companies you buy from. And I do understand beta carotene is probably going to be cheaper, but would you rather pay $10 for something where you maybe get 40% of the benefit, and 40% actually might be generous, or pay $15 where you get 100% of the benefit that this product is claiming it gives you? It's about wasting money, because for that $10 supplement that has beta carotene in it, you're probably getting enough beta carotene from your food. And if you really want the benefits of the vitamin A, you might have to pay a few extra dollars, nothing crazy, and you're going to actually get the benefits of what you're paying for. Like I've said, supplementing with some form of retinol or retinoic acid is one way to make sure you're getting sufficient levels of vitamin A, but another way is to get it from whole food sources. Unfortunately for my vegan friends, finding vitamin A in plant sources that's actually retinol is basically impossible. The highest concentrations of vitamin A are going to be found in beef liver, which contains approximately 6,000 IUs of retinol, which is a sufficient dose for a day, and then colostrum, which is a product that comes from milk. Because it comes from milk, the actual concentrations of vitamin A varies pretty widely, but it is shown that there are consistently high enough levels of retinol in the colostrum. Egg yolks are another food high in vitamin A. A lot of the animal foods that have, again, that orange color, so except for salmon. One last little piece of information on vitamin A. I've said this before, but there are a certain class of vitamins that are fat soluble, meaning that your body only absorbs them in the presence of fat. For vitamin A, one of the reasons is the receptor that binds to retinol is actually a receptor for cholesterol, and specifically it binds to high density lipoproteins, which is your HDL cholesterol. And so that receptor has dual functions of binding vitamin A and sort of activating it in the body and binding to these cholesterols. So it's really important that when you're taking vitamin A, make sure you take it in a meal where you're consuming some fat. The only exception here is if your main source of vitamin A is coming from colostrum, because colostrum comes from milk and milk has fat in it. So you're going to get that activated form and not need to consume anything else. Going back to the beginning, vitamin A is an essential vitamin. We need it for our immune system and especially for a healthy microbiome. In today's world, with all the environmental insults and all the things that disrupt our gut, it's more important than ever to have enough vitamin A. And let's keep creating our genius by supporting our body with readily available vitamin A in the form of retinol, taking it with fat, and trying to get it from diet in the form of colostrum, liver, and egg yolks is another way you can do that. I hope this information serves you well, and I will see you next time.